G'day, g'day, g'day. MathematicalKM here. Remember their initials, not a title. Keith Malumbi. Okay, weighing it. This is the final game of the Challenges round robin at the Tuggeranong Chess Club. And today's video, Hippo, Maker of Kings. Okay, and no, I didn't promote a pawn to a king. That would be interesting. Now, weighing in at 1450. And playing Lukasz. Lukasz is weighing in at 1675, so that's what a good 225 uphill. It's the final round of the round robin, and Lukasz, with the white pieces, needs a win over the water horse to hold the crown up high. So I'm not really in the running to win, but should the Hippo do well enough, changes the gold medal. So definitely something to play for. Okay, here we go. And Lukasz mentioned he'd watched some hanging pawn stuff on the Hippo. It was interesting. I thought that probably by the time we got to the Hippo's 11th move, there's our breather moment. Yeah, sure, I took a little bit of extra space with my B-pawn, but we'd even just had a little tiny discussion before the game. I mentioned that in all of the round robin games, that I'd get to the end of the setup theory and just look and find myself ahead on the clock. And he'd done a little bit of prep for me, needed to win the crown. And just for what it's worth, at this point in time, Lukasz had 46 minutes on the clock and I still had 60 minutes on the dot. There you go. So it is interesting that the people who look at a bit of theory about the Hippo, odds are that, at least in this little particular tournament, they haven't gone through their first 10 moves just so that they can bang them out as fast as the person who they know has, and it's not a secret at the Tuggeranong Chess Club, this is I think the 89th Hippo that I've played this year, the year of the Hippo. Hope to get to 100. Got a tournament over this weekend with 7 games in it. That's 7 Hippos over Friday, Saturday, Sunday. That'd nearly get me there. Okay, so anyway, let's keep on going. So that's given me a first decision immediately after the breather moment. In fact, you could say the breather moment doesn't occur until this point. I've fully set up and this is what I'm looking at. And for what it's worth, let's let the computer show us what the top moves are. Now I know that D5 is what we would normally do. The Lego fit, and we don't want to open up that queen and rook, all the rest of it. But I do have a choice here, because if I come flying in and grab this bishop, the odds are he's not going to continue playing shenanigans with that pawn, because having taken that bishop, I'm actually lined up on 2 rooks. So I figured if I take the bishop, he'll no doubt take back with the knight. I can see that my pawns are going to be on light squares in the main, meaning the dark bishop is my good bishop. He'll be left with a dark bishop and his pawns will be on dark squares, so the dark bishop will be his bad bishop. That being the case, I talk myself swapping the light bishops off would be in my favour. Turns out that brings it to 0.00 and I was better off just sealing the gap. But needless to say, I think the logic of getting rid of the light bishops was okay. Called a mistake here. And then forward, and we've got the smallest of edges to white pretty much immediately after the breather moment. So it's not too bad. Okay. He starts swinging that knight around. I can see, and lots of pawns here. He's attacking the king side. I wonder if he's expecting me to castle into that. I promise you, Hippo fans, there will be a castle. Might be a world record. Oh, who knows how deep into a game? What is the biggest move number where somebody has castled? I don't think I'll be in the running, but might get an honourable mention. It's quite late. For what it's worth, bringing the pieces around there, and at the moment, the old Lego fit is pretty much on the cards, but I can Spidey senses tingling, Hippo senses tingling. I am imagining that he'll come forward with the H pawn. I'll need to come forward, and my poor little Gary is going to be protected by, well, at the moment, only one pawn. And he's got 1, 2, 3 pieces that will be on the Gary. Sure, a pawn's the best sort of defender, but that just smacks of a place to maybe try and sacrifice and then break through. So I've got my own pawns going on the queen side since he's castled that way. And cheers, Solomon Riddell, with if your opponent castles queen side, get those pawns going. That was part of the reason the B pawn took 2 squares on its first move. So, let's get those pawns going. C5, which is covered by the knight, is a push I could have made. But it's 1.52, and he really should play H5 and play it now. So let's see. He saw my pawns coming and didn't play his H5, but he solidified his pawn chain in front of his own king there, which, pretty understandable. Now I get the H5 in, it's excellent, and I've got my own sort of pawn. This is a game in 2 theatres. The queenside theatre, where I'm sending my pawns at his king, and on the king side he's just got the 2 pawns, but he's got a number of pieces. I'm a little outnumbered over there. So it becomes a bit of a game of chicken in as much as can I afford to make a move in the theatre where I'm attacking? Do I need to make a defensive move where I'm defending? It's a real arm wrestle from that point of view. He's moved his king across. That was excellent. Now, that's called an inaccuracy, but I was thinking you attack along the pawn chain, and I'm fixing that C pawn in place, and I'm thinking that I'm going to be charging forward with the B pawn and trying to do some damage with my A and B pawns in there. Queen can come across. There's already a rook there. We'll see. I think I'll have some chances with my attack, but I'm a bit worried about his attack. What does he do? Okay, he plays his H5 move. I've very much got to play G5, see if the computer agrees. It very much does. I can see B4 isn't that much worse, which is ignore him, just continue with your own attack. And Rook B8 is also part of the attack. It's to end up pinning his B pawn to the king. But we play the G5. And it's one of, I believe I get 2 great moves. Now, right now, he's got 1, 2, 3 pieces on that. and I've only got the one defender. True, it's a pawn. But now is actually the time to sack. As you can see, it's plus 0.7 if he sacks with his knight. And then I'll be I'll go up a piece, but I'll be scrambling, and these pawns will end up being quite strong. But he had plans to back the bishop, remove the knight, and come forward with the pawn, and do it without same attack, but without the sack. And bishop e3 actually gives the edge back to black, which is nice. Now I know I need more pieces protecting that pawn. I've got a couple of ideas here. There's try and get the dark bishop to e7. Could have gone with f6, and if he takes it, then the bishop takes back, and then there's a second piece being the bishop. But it does open that file, and I was hoping to avoid that, so that's why I didn't go with that. Just moving this knight anywhere gives the queen as another piece. And right now, he's still got his 3 pieces. What can I do? Okay, now that is an inaccuracy, but it supports my b-pawn push. And now I've got 2 pieces, a pawn and the queen, and he's got 3 attackers. So there's tension on both sides of the board. Now his plan of not doing it without a sack, he needs, I'm not going to tell somebody 225 points more low than myself what he needs to do, but Sack Sack Mate is the name of one of Simon Williams's courses. Fortunately for me, he's going for the well-supported pawn push to get it through. But by moving that knight there, just temporarily, he's only got the 2 attackers, and right now I've got 2 defenders. And maybe I can do something to get that to 3. Let's see. It was a miss. Let's go back. Was it suggesting f6, I wonder? Oh, queen b6. It's and b4. Some lessons for me as well. Maybe because it was 2 and 2, maybe now was actually time to press my attack. So hard to tell. Anyway, I move my bishop, ready to try and get my bishop to e7 and have enough. Okay, now he has got 1, 2, 3, and the first one being a pawn, and I've got 1, 2, 3. Computer like taking f4 with the pawn, but for now it's defended. But, and let's see, what move are we at? Move 20. I'll give you a run on the clock. Lukasz is at 32 minutes and I'm at 51. Maybe I've got to learn to spend a bit more time thinking these things through. I did get it down to I've got 3 defenders, he's got 3 attackers, but what will it look like after the smoke clears? I knew that Harry was going to be a bit of a pain, and just watch. It's been a fairly peaceful game up until move 20. Let there be blood. It's a great move. It's the best move. It was a mistake. That's interesting. Knight to f3. Just bring in more resources now. Would have been sneaky and clever. Well done, computer. But no, we take. We take. We take. We take. So there's just a little bit more materials come off the board. And like I said, I can see that Harry's going to be a little bit of a problem. Still got, potential attack of my own over here. And the best move for me is knight. Hang on, we're up to knight f3 was best, which is bringing in that reinforcement now to attack my g-pawn. And I was thinking about it. If he takes it now, he'll be threatening the base of the chain, which is protected by the king, and that one which is protected by that. If I accept that Gary can die, let's press the attack over here. And he really should have ignored the pressing attack and taken plus 1.9. But he's pushed with Harry the H-pawn. And I have brought in a reinforcement for Gary. He can, of course, take it, which he does. What are we up to? Move 25. Far too early to be castling, computer. What are you talking about? Move 25. Too early to castle. That could be an alternate title for the video. Move 25. Too early to castle. Okay. But no, knight times f6 is second best and played. Now, no doubt, knight times g5 is his best, just to get rid of that my material while he can, but he brings another rook into the rooks behind pawns, that's what they say. But knight e4 protects this pawn, and it threatens the pawn that I'm looking at attacking. It's just a nice place to be. And now the edge is to black. Rook to h5. He's now got 2 threatening my Gary pawn. And king e7 would be giving, protection to the base, which would be threatened if a knight takes there. As would king d7. But the third best move, there's not a lot in it, is rook to b8, which I've played. Was third best, now they're calling it an inaccuracy. The point being, if I take his c pawn, his b pawn is unable to take back. And if he takes with the knight, then I can take with check and the b pawn can't take. It's quite a nice little idea. His best move is just taking the b pawn with his c pawn. And then there's pawns in the way and the rook can't get all the way towards his king. But king to c1 is good, but it's still the edge to black. King e7 is still a good idea, backing that pawn chain up. But at naught is b times c3, played. He took with his knight, which is protected by that pawn because it can move. Taking with the pawn was better. We're at minus 0.7 to black. And yeah, round about move 30, maybe time to throw in the castle. Why have I thrown in the castle and not just moved the rook? And let's see, it is one of the top 3 moves, the castling. This knight is hanging. The rook is aimed at the b pawn. And what's the fastest way I can get another rook to here? And then maybe do some sort of a cheeky checkmate with getting in, pushing the king back, using the knights and winning the game that way. Well, could go rook here, but then I'd be super worried about Harry. Can I get the rook here and the king to here to look after that? Yes, I can. Time to castle. Okay, so here's move 30. He didn't like that knight being there very much. And now this is a very interesting moment, and I did need to think about this for a little while. In fact, coming into move 30, I spent 3 minutes. I've now got 38 minutes on the clock, and Lukasz, he went from 17 down to 8 minutes before he played that knight takes e4. So he had a big think, and then I had a relative big think of 3 minutes. And let's see. I decided, because I've got a decision here between taking that one or that one. Now, if I take this one, then I'm not as close to having this rook there to get 2 rooks on the second rank and do rookety rook shenanigans. So taking that pawn is not as good, and see that's 0.0, but rook times f3 is -1. So that's the better move to play, and I've played it. Now, what's Lukasz to do? If he takes with his knight, it's not check. And I get to move this rook to here, and then all sorts of fun and games might ensue. I would be looking for that. And knight takes is not even one of the best 3. It would be a bit of a mistake. In fact, stopping rookety rook shenanigans, knight to d2, threatening the rook, is actually the second best move here. Knight to c3. Not even sure how that stops the rookety rook, but that's there. But far and away, his best move is rook takes the pawn with check, and he's got his 2 pawns and his all the things in a row. That's the best move, and he's played it. And so we're coming into my move 31. So he's now got 6 minutes on his clock, and I knew this was a tough question. What I didn't want was, in many ways, you can see the knight coming in looks like it'll be a check. But if nothing else has happened, that if the knight comes in to there, the rook can take it. So my choices are, don't want to go away from that horrible Harry, between h8 and h7. And I was thinking I might get a chance to kill Harry if I'm next to him. And I was playing out in my head, if he was to play check, I could then, the king with his own rusty sword, could take that horrible Harry and be threatening the rook. So that was my logic for king h7. King h8 was actually the -1.1 move. But still the second best, and I think the logic works in accuracy. But the king is threatening Harry at the moment. And what's white going to do? And remembering, he's got to move that knight or provide a check. And And this is the move I think we both missed. He missed because he allowed it, and I missed because I didn't think it through. And let's have a look at the clock. Move 32. I've got 33 minutes on the clock. Lukasz has got 6. And it's, yeah, the old mathematical KM should have done a bit more math. The beautiful thing that the computer knows about with that -2 is take the pawn. The rook was hanging. No, it wasn't. Knight fork on the 2 rooks, and they're not even protecting each other. Just going to win a... It's just beautiful. However, wasn't seen. It's slightly tricky, but I need to spend a little bit more time evaluating these mid-game positions and looking for going through if I take the pawn, what happens? He takes the rook, I take the knight, I get another rook. So he's left with a rook and I'm left with a rook and a knight. Just would have been beautiful. Okay, enough. Let's not cry about spilt milk. I did at least, and I think one of the main reasons I didn't see that nice little tic-tac is I was just planning to win and kill Harry. It was almost in my head that, don't care if I lose this game, Harry is going to die. Thank you, Simon Williams. Okay. So he's looking to get this rook through, but that is saying goodbye to Harry. Was best, and -2.9. Taken Harry, and I'm threatening his rook. And that rook is trapped. So rook times d5. I forgot that one. And that's the second best move. But his best move is rook h5 check. Played. And then mine only good move of the position is, and it's my second great move, takes... Ooh. I mean, the king is stopping the new Harry, and the best move is grab the pawn while you can. Makes a degree of sense. But it was a miss. However, Gary and Harry, nowhere to be seen. I've got a 3 versus 1. And that pawn is a target already. Isolated pawn that a knight's pointing at. You can see it's 2.3 to black. He's challenging my pawn chain. What's the best thing I can do is just take it with the c-pawn. Pushing was an inaccuracy. Ouch. I guess it made sense when he's only got 3 pawns left to just try and kill them. Particularly as it would have evened up. Yeah, I can see that one now. He's gone back. He's threatening this pawn. But the best thing for me is try and bring my king across, but second best, knight takes the d pawn, which I've played. He gets that one. And I kind of planned that one out when I pushed it because I was hoping to pin the knight to the king. And silly little bit of hope chess because the knight can't move. Sure, but the king can. So I bring the king across. Okay, he's threatening the knight. I can bring the knight, which now lets my king come across. The king's been cut off by his rook for some time. I did plan to get the king across to help push the pawns through. Okay, he's thinking about that. I go check. He comes in. And this is where knight to c6. I'll go forward a little bit. I've gone back, check, he's gone there, check. Now I had the feeling, strong feeling, that my position was a winning position. And if only Solomon Riddell, the chess giant, had published his endgame course earlier this year, I may have been at the point where I was confident that I could win this particular endgame, which I felt was winning. Okay, here we go. Let's go. Take it back to where I've checked him, he's come back. Let's just take a quick look. By the way, it was at this point with repetition because I didn't have the confidence to push these pawns through, even though I can see it's a winning position and there is, -3 to black. Let's play and give black the best moves. And white the best moves. Well, I'll be, even though I've got the edge. Oh no, here we go. Beautiful. And I think you can see that it's an endgame that I might take it from the point where I effectively offered the draw with the repetition and play the computer with it. But playing 225 points uphill and also knowing that any result better than a loss made the Hippo into the kingmaker. It changed who won the gold medal for the whole thing. It's an achievement. It's not winning a gold medal myself. But I think that was quite the 89th Hippo that I've reviewed and played and got in my YouTube channel this year, and it was quite the game. Let's take a look at the review before we sign it off. You can see it was quite the arm wrestle. And 80, so by a couple of percent there, I outplayed a player who needed a win with the white pieces against me to win the tournament. So that's good. More great moves, doesn't mean very much. But 1950 to 2050, 92.6, 90.3. So right, very even in the opening, 72 to 78.6. So that's an improved middle game for me. And the end game, 85 to 76, well, that's a strong argument for, even though I knew I was ahead, taking that forced draw was perhaps not the worst decision I've made. So that's the last of game of this round robin. Next week, it's the first week of 3 weeks with 3 games each night with only 15 minutes each. And typically I take those nights as 3 weeks of holiday, but who knows, I might even wander in and see if I can play a fast Hippo. But there you go. That was, as we approach the 100 Hippos in the year of the Hippo, that was a pretty snazzy draw against a high-rated opponent, and it affected the podium finish of the tournament. So, bye for now.